on the next page. I don't know.
Who's Bella? Don't know.
Oh,
Julie, I was at a meeting with Julie last night and she said that Bella's doing very well.
Good.
Oh, good.
Thank you,
I'm so
Amy.
glad.
Yeah, I don't even know what's she doing? Where is she? What's happening?
She moved because her grandson.
The grandchildren.
Yeah, and it's Idaho or Iowa.
Oh, so now I get it.
Other.
It's like, no, I thought two.
Shabbat Shalom. So you're actually all talking to each other and using words, which is so much more difficult than what I'm doing right now, which are using no words and just sort of like yida-dying through a melody. So you know what? Stop talking to each other and loving each other so much. And let's start singing. All right, so this is a nigun. It's a song without words. It's literally meant to be welcoming. So it's kind of meant to, like it's one of those songs where you just add water or you have no excuse not to sing. Whatever you want to call it. It starts out like this. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. 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 We'll just try that. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Then it gets a little fun. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. 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 That's the cautionary note in the nigun. It's like just when you think life is very fun, then it gets hard. Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Life's everything you expect, and then it all goes wrong. That's why that note's that way. Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Think whatever you want in your head. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Yada-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Yai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Shabbat Shalom.
Spiritually. I actually love when the way you open the service and the way I want to open the service intertwine so beautifully. Because I wanted to ask, who here are fans of the musical Rent? Don't be embarrassed. Okay, exactly. That's what I want to talk about. I was thinking about the song from Rent, Seasons of Love. Seasons of Love, you might be familiar with it. It asks, how do you measure a year? Do you measure it in daylights and moments and midnights and cups of coffee? If you know the words, you will be familiar. This week, I was thinking, I don't want to ask, how can I measure a year? I'm actually asking, how do I measure a week? How do I measure a week that in only 7 days has had so many different moments in it? A week that has had moments of awesomeness and joy, beautiful weather, and a week that has also had rain and frustration and traffic jams and so many emails. How do we measure a week? Shabbat is a time when we take time to measure our week. When we don't let it just pass us by in a blur, and you think, when someone asks, how is your week? You say, fine, and then you think, I actually have no idea what I did this week. We take time to look back and think, what happened to us this week? How did we feel about it? What do we want the next week to feel like? What are the moments that we're missing? What are the moments that we're grateful for? So I hope we can spend some time this service together measuring this past week and thinking about what will the next few weeks be like for us and how we can bring more beauty into them through Shabbat. We're going to start bringing beauty into the week in this very moment by inviting up our incredible bat mitzvah Claire, and her family, Linda, Mark, and Ava, who are going to bring in some beauty through lighting our Shabbat candles. You can join with us. We are on page 120.
Take our hands and bring this light 3 times towards us and cover our eyes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
We now turn to our Kiddush. And when we say the blessing over the Kiddush, we actually take a moment to imagine the whole entire universe. We take a moment to imagine the moments of creation, the creation of the universe and creation as it exists in our day-to-day or week-to-week. We are on page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
Please rise.
Borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher kijanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinhilanu. Zikaron lema'aseh Boreshit, ki hu yom tehila lemikra el kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu bacharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodecha, Be'odava uvratzon hinchiltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen. You should feel pretty yourself.
L'chaim, Mazel Tov, Claire.
You don't need to
We're so excited for you.
Just hugs.
We turn to Lecha Dodi on page 138. Please be seated. And our ancestors knew that on Shabbat we don't just spend time differently, we also think about language differently. And Lecha Dodi is a mystical poem that uses language and uses poetry to invite us to wake up, to see the world differently, and to celebrate everything that is Shabbat. So we're on page 138.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamoy v'zachor v'ribor echad ishmianu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha ki himukor haviracha merosh mikedem nesucha sof maaseh b'machashava techila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki va'orech kumi ori, uri, uri, shir daveri, kavod Adonai alayach nigla. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela.
Please rise and face the entrance.
Boi v'shalom ha'teret bala gam b'simcha uv'tzola toch hamunei am segula. Boi chala, boi chala. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela.
We remain standing if you're standing. We are on page 146 for our Baruchu, our cacophony of blessings.
Lai lai lai, lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Lai lai lai, lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. Le'olam, 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 le'olam va'ed. Lai lai lai, lai 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 lai. Lai 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 lai.
We turn to page 152 for Shema, and we just bask in quiet and our ability to listen in our unity as a people.
Shema
completed.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Emet. Please turn to page 157. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth. Please read with me. The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal justice and love. From bondage in Egypt we were delivered at Sinai. We bound ourselves to your way. Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces. Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed. Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then we shall rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Mi chamocha Lailim Adonai, mi chamocha Nedar b'kodesh, Nora tehilot oseh Helen, Nora tehilot oseh Helen, malchutecha ra'u vanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam, ze'eli anu ve'ameru Adonai yimlo leolam va'ed va'ed.
We turn to page 162 for Vishamru, which is a song that says, or prayer that says, Shabbat is awesome. It's amazing to have a day that's just about doing nothing. That's just about resting and taking care of ourselves and each other and eating great food and taking naps. Shabbat is a wonderful holiday. We're going to sing about it on page 162 with Vishamru.
Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. והניעו בין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Body and in spirit, and turn to page 164 for our Amidah.
Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 sifatai tiftach. Na 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 ufi agi. Ufi agi tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 sifatai tiftach. Na 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 ufi agid. Ufi agid tehilatecha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 sifatai tiftach. Na 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 ufi agid. Ufi agid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל HaKadosh.
Poem about the month of May by Mary Oliver. May, and among the miles of leafing, blossoms storm out of the darkness, windflowers and moccasin flowers. The bees dive into them, and I too, to gather their spiritual honey. Mute and meek, yet theirs is the deepest certainty that this existence too, this sense of well-being, this flourishing of the physical body, rides near the hub of the miracle that everything is part of, is as good as a poem or a prayer, and can make luminous any dark place on earth. We take a moment for quiet prayer and personal reflection, and if you're standing, when you're done, please be seated.
shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Lai 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 lai. Oseh shalom bimromam Uyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Lai 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 lai.
We take a moment to think of people who we love and people who we care deeply about, who we're a little worried about, who we feel like maybe they're having a hard few days or a hard week or a challenging year. People who we know are struggling physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. And so if there's somebody you're thinking of, we ask you to share their name out loud, just to say kind of out in the world, this is a person I care about, this is a person I'm praying for, this is a person I want to be reminded of. And we're going to send thoughts of strength and healing their way. So if there's somebody you're thinking of whose name you'd like to share out loud, please do so as I pass my hand around the room. We hold all of those people in our heart as we turn to Misha Berach. We're on page 371.
Misha Berach Avotenu Makor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Makor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of and let us say, Amen.
Well, Shabbat Shalom. So Will Ferrell, who, we often quote in sermons in the sanctuary, Will Ferrell once said, before you commit to an intimate relationship, you should first make them use a computer with slow internet service to see who they really are. So this week I have lived that when my computer crashed yesterday, and with it, my sermon for tonight. So luckily, the subject of my sermon is the power of patience. That helped a little. And it was more than with a little bit of beshert that it's meant that in my preparation, I've researched this subject a lot. And who knew that I'd be putting all these lessons into practice, at least trying to, over the last 36 hours. And I need it. Just a few weeks ago, I was sitting in a meeting and I heard this rhythmic thumping. It was like this. And I was wondering, what could it be? What's this thumping sound? And then I realized, to my surprise and embarrassment, it was me. I had been tapping my foot like this for the whole end of a meeting when I was sitting across from people who I really cared about. But I was also ready for it to be done. I was already thinking about the next thing. And why? Why? Why didn't I take a moment to actually just be a little more patient? Why didn't I take the time if I felt like this wasn't going in the way that I wanted it to? Didn't I slow down and ask better questions? Why didn't I make this time more meaningful for them and for me? If I would have stayed focused, if I would have been patient, we actually would have had a better meeting together. But instead, there I was, literally betraying how I was feeling inside. And Harvard professor and art historian Jennifer Roberts has a practice for this that she teaches her art history students. She teaches them the power of patience. I wish I was her student. She had her students sit in front of a painting, go to a museum, again, sit in front of a painting for 3 hours. Anybody else feel their foot already starting to tap just thinking about 3 hours in front of one painting? And she did this herself. Like a good teacher, she actually went to see what was she assigning her students to do. She went to the Museum of Fine Arts, and she went to sit in front of John Singleton Copley's A Boy with a Flying Squirrel. I don't know if you've seen this painting before. 3 hours. You're lucky. It might be 2 minutes that we actually focus on the slide. But for her, she sat for 3 hours. And what did she see? After 9 minutes, she saw that the shape of the boy's ear precisely echoes that of the ruff along the squirrel's belly. Do you see that? And then in 21 minutes of sitting there, she noticed that the fingers holding the chain exactly span the diameter of the water glass beneath them. Do you see that? Now listen to this. 45 minutes after sitting there, she noticed those folds in that curtain behind him. She noticed that those folds and wrinkles in the background are exactly the perfect copies of the shape of the boy's ear and his eye. Okay, 45 minutes in. What did she see at the end of that 3 hours? We don't know. She didn't share that in her article. But I think when you can stay that long patiently looking at something, there's a lot to be able to see about the artist's intention. What was he trying to make a statement about? About human and animal sensory perceptions and the connections between them? Or the connections between elements of metal and water and human touch? Or how humans can imprint the shape of the world and the surroundings, their surroundings? You hold there long enough, and we can make connections in the presence that allow us not only to wait for the future, but to have insights about how we can build ourselves to have a better future, maybe even a better present, if we can stay there. 3 hours to sit and focus on a vision seems like a long time. I'm looking at Linda Horowitz and Mark. 13 years to behold what you're going to see tomorrow. And my foot could tap again just thinking about sitting in front of that for 3 hours. Until I think about how long Moses had to focus on the vision that he received at Mount Sinai. Can you imagine that? 40 years. 40 years he had to see that vision and had to build the people toward that vision. And it was a vision that he put forth that he actually didn't go in to experience himself. In this week's Torah portion, Bahar, we hear about the laws concerning the Sabbaths of the land in the 7th year, the Sabbath of the land, and the freedom to be granted to the slaves, and the restoration of lands in the Jubilee year in the 50th year. All of this, he's getting at Mount Sinai these directions for a land that he's actually not going to, and the people are not going to see for another 40 years. He had to hold that vision in his mind. So our Torah portion begins, Adonai spoke to Moses, Bahar Sinai, on Mount Sinai. And so he's saying to the people, here's another thing that God mentioned on Sinai. You've got to know about this piece as well. And why did Moses tell the Israelites this at that particular moment? Well, Sforno says that it's because Moses was still under the impression that he and the Israelites would proceed in short order to that land. They needed to know about it right then because they were about to behold it. This was before the sin of the spies. This was before he knew that they were going to have to wait 40 years, and it was certainly before he realized he wasn't going to go in there himself. It set them back 40 years. And so he was ready already in that moment, this week's Torah portion, to go into the land, and then had to wait 40 years. Can you imagine holding on to that vision for 40 years? Again, like your foot could tap just thinking about it. But I think that being able to focus on it for 40 years gave the Israelites and Moses a great gift because they could focus on that vision, to tread lightly on the earth, giving themselves and the earth a chance to breathe, to value freedom and equity, that laws exist to focus on human dignity and the well-being of all living beings, to realize that life can move quickly and mistakes will be made, so forgiveness and restoration must be built into the system itself. 40 years to reinforce that vision. Maybe it's not even long enough. They needed the time to focus, to have patience, to make themselves worthy of this vision, and they could then be ready to enact it when they get into that land. And to have that kind of patience takes focus. For the Israelites, that took 40 years. And for us Jews today, well, we've had thousands of years and we're still working at it. So our tradition gives us not only this Shabbat to be able to slow down and focus, but 49 days of counting the Omer each day, a way of slowing down, bringing us into focus and vision with patience. Now, Professor Roberts gave her students a lesson in patience that began with a vision that lasted 3 hours. And God gave us a lesson in patience with vision that stretched from 49 days to 40 years to 4,000 years. And as Jewish Chicagoans, we can't help but think about the next 4 years. With a new mayor and new aldermen, how do we help them stay focused on our vision of Chicago, one of safety and equity, human dignity and opportunity? And how do we ourselves stay focused on that vision? I don't have the answers. I don't know how each one of us should do this, but I know we have a responsibility to try, to have the patience to look and see that vision in our mind's eye, and then take the time and patience to enact it in our city. So it begins with vision, and while I don't know exactly what that is, I know a place to start. It's deceptively simple, and we encountered it in the Torah just a few chapters back. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself. What if we sat with that? What if we contemplated that for 3 hours, 49 days? Who's your neighbor? How big is your idea of a neighborhood? How do you show love, concern, and care? And what do you take on yourself? What if we stayed with that for the remainder of the 49 days of the Omer? Who's your neighbor? How big is your neighborhood? How do you show concern and care? What will you yourself do to show your neighbors that care and concern? It might try our patience, but what if we were to stretch that count beyond these 49 days? Focus on that vision and renew it and restore it for the next 1,460 days. I don't know how to count that in minutes and moments, but I think we could. I think that we deserve, and our neighbors deserve, our city deserves, and our world deserves us to try to have that kind of vision and that kind of patience.
Say, people, take it slow. Keep your vision in your mind. All we need is just a little patience. Just a little patience. Yeah. Just a little patience. Yeah. I've been walking the streets at night, just trying to get it right. Hard to see so many around. You know I don't like being stuck in a crowd, but the streets don't change, but maybe the names. We ain't got time for this game, 'cause we need it. Yeah, we need it. Just a little patience. Thank you for fulfilling my dream.
Guns N' Roses on the
Finally
Bima.
bringing Guns N' Roses to the Bima.
We knew
It
we
took
would get
20 plus years of being a cantor.
there. You were patient. You
I was very
patiently waited.
That's patience.
That's patience.
Axel, I hope you heard that somewhere. We have patience and a sense of humor here.
Yes, and some announcements even.
Okay, good.
So I know that on Monday night we have adult education, that on Monday, May 15th online, we are going to be watching a film together, Paris, Manhattan, and we're going to be able to talk about it.
This Tuesday evening, if you are in Macomb, so in your 20s and 30s, or part of the Women of Temple Sholom, we are doing a joint 80s themed event where I specifically bought a vintage 80s tracksuit in
You
order
didn't already have one?
to celebrate. I did not,
You
but
could
I
have
do
borrowed
now.
the cantors or mine.
So, yes, I should have
You
thought about
youngin'.
that. Yes, it's going to be incredibly fun. We're going to be joining together for drinks, conversation, some fun music, and games. So please join us. You can sign up online.
That's awesome.
And I know that we were all so impacted by the extraordinary symposium on gun violence this past Sunday and Monday with the Trannon Family Distinguished Speaker Series, where we heard from Aswad Thomas, we heard from Senator Christopher Murphy, we heard from activists in Chicago, and now we're saying, what can we do next and what must we do next? And on May 17th at 5:30 p.m., we as a community are going to be discussing those next steps that we can take around advocacy around gun violence. And so we invite you please to join us then to be able to start to take these next steps, to plan them out. Again, 5:30. When you leave here, or if you're online, you can see that you can click the link. Here you can actually put your phone up to the QR code that you'll see on your way out. And from there, you'll be able to be taken to how to sign up for that advocacy committee meeting, 5:30 p.m., where we discover and discuss next steps.
And next week on this Bima, I will be joined by our high schoolers, and our graduates will be speaking before they head off to college. Final bits of wisdom from them. Every prayer, every melody has been handpicked by these incredible high schoolers, and they'll be helping me lead this service, so come and be with us for that Kabbalat Torah graduation Shabbat service.
I just want to do just a quick show of hands. Who here has ever been here for our high school graduation on a Shabbat here? Okay, can we all agree? One of the most inspirational evenings of the entire year. I will say, if you think tonight was special and extraordinary,
No, this is
and
nothing.
it was,
It's
but
next
compared
week.
to that, exactly. Come back next week, and again, it's at 6:15 service, where we're going to be led by our high school students, and we're going to hear our high school seniors' extraordinary wisdom. It will be something special. We look forward to seeing you then. We're going to turn now to the bottom of page 586. Did you like my, it was like not so subtle cue? Like if you wanted to go down now. As we turn to the bottom of page 586 for Aleinu, please rise.
Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. 591 ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
Please be seated as we patiently turn back to page 570. Robert, I see that tonight you were more patient than last week and didn't even say, we need to count the Omer this evening. But I will say there are 12 days left in the counting of the Omer, so you know what night tonight is, as there are 49 days in the counting of the Omer. 12 more left. You do the math and you've got it.
Are you expecting me to say the Omer blessing? Or?
I thought you were going to sing the Omer
Oh,
blessing.
I'm always happy to. I thought that was it, that you were like, Robert, today I'm just going to say it to you like this, and that's how you're going to get it. And I thought, did I really take all that time in seminary to learn
No,
this?
especially because I don't know if people could be patient to wait for one more blessing. I don't think that they could be patient to wait
Well,
for
I'm
one
going
more
to take
Shabbat.
my sweet time with this. Page 570. הנני מוכן ומזומן, הנני מוכן ומזומן לקיים מצוות עשה של ספירת, מצוות עשה של ספירת האומר, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על ספירת העומר. היום 37 יום שהם 5 שבועות ו2 ימים לעומר.
Today is 37 days, which is 5 weeks and 2 days of the Omer. And as we turn now to page 598, I know that for so many of us, we have heard the news that yesterday ended officially the national public health emergency around COVID-19. That was more than 3 years after it was first declared as a national public health emergency. And I know for those of us who lost loved ones, either to COVID itself or in the time of COVID, our grief was impacted. The way in which we mourned our loved ones was impacted. And so tonight, even as we mark this official end, we know that we are never ending in our thinking about, treasuring the memories of, and living in the light of our loved ones who died. W.S. Merwin wrote, "Your absence has gone through me like thread through a needle. Everything I do is stitched with its color." And so on this Friday night, we mark the recent passing of our loved ones, Burl Conan, Ronald Benak, Geraldine Pergament, Harriet Bednick, Michael Freeman, Thomas L. Bookie, Leroy Lee Fadum, Denise Graney, and Alfred Gorgie. We also mark the yard site this evening of Michael Block, Jamie Dordeck, Edith Gans, Bonnie Levitt Harris, Hannah Hess, Jean Kleinman, Barry Huber, Lynn Lippin, Harry Marks, Harriet Mashkis, Marvin Mindis, Ruth Geller Neems, Reba Ocheret, Burton Olin, Charles Raisin, Joseph Rosenblatt, Mary Von Sias, Ellen Saper Thomas, Velma Schnitz, Shirley Shavel, Harry B. Stone, Nancy Tannenbaum, Anush Taub, Meyer Tukinski, George Yano, and Harold Schomer. If there are others whom you are remembering on the Shabbat, I invite you to say their name.
Sam Kesselman.
Again, page 598, Kaddish Yatom. Please rise.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyom echon, v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agalau v'zman kariv v'imuru.
Amen.
Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam ulalmei almaya,
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudashah b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Da'amiran v'yalma v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom imramav. V'yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom imramav. V'yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Imru. Amen. You could stay right where you are. And maybe the narrative changed and something that felt up is now down and vice versa. So, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Claire Horowitz, go get some rest. Harrison Israel to the podium, please. Harrison Israel.
Okay.